What's going on? We're back up in the garage again, and I'm making this video to tell you that I messed up on something. And it's okay because I fixed it already. So, first of all, if you remember that hub conversion video where I put 9.5 hubs with bigger wheel bearings, all that, in this car, I said at the end, this is just for professionals, don't attempt this stuff. And this is why, because it could be dangerous if you mess something up, and you don't know how to catch it, you don't know how to fix it properly, and this and that. So, and another thing, the whole reason I put myself through all this, designing wheel bearings and then chancing them and trying to learn stuff like that, is because I want to learn, because I actually just want to build a car from scratch to begin with, at some point soon. So that's why I put myself through all this. So, you know, bolt-on parts don't help me. I like to build everything. So what actually went wrong here? So in that hub conversion video, you'll remember that the hubs didn't actually sit all the way in the wheel bearings. If you looked closely at even the thumbnail, you'll see it. I didn't think this was a problem, but it turned out to be. After that test day, when we got back, I decided to just take it for a quick test trip around the block. There's a steep hill nearby, so I was just coasting slowly down that hill with my foot on the brakes, and then the pedal was going to the floor, so I was just kind of feeling what it was doing, making sure it's not the hubs. And then sure enough, I could feel the pedal just doing that, like really slowly, so immediately I knew what it was. So I came back, lifted it up, took the wheel off, started the car up while it was in gear so the wheels could spin, and then it looked like this. And then as you can see, the whole rotor and hub is wobbling like crazy. So I did take out those caliper clips just to see if they were doing anything before I went and test drove. So that's why they're not in there. But basically the whole thing's just out of whack, wobbly. And then the reason for this is because the hub didn't actually sit deep enough inside the wheel bearing, and it didn't locate with the CV. So the way it's supposed to work is the hub goes into the wheel bearing, of course, press fits, and then the axle actually sandwiches it together. But the thing is, if the axle doesn't locate perfectly in the hub, any misalignment can actually sort of damage the hub a little bit to where it sits offset, and then the axle will actually slide on the back face to compensate, and then the whole assembly kind of wobbles, if you get what I'm saying. So that's what happened here. The whole hub was actually like smaller in diameter. It kind of got crushed down in, like, I don't know the actual word for it, but it got like cold forged smaller, where it was actually riding on the inside race crooked, if that makes sense. So the hubs being forged steel, not cast iron, they're actually forged steel. I know this because of the crimp that they have to put on it in the hub, and then you can't cut splines and cast iron that nicely, and then they would just break and stuff. Anyway, it's forged steel. So the solution here was just to simply extend the hub and then make it locate with the axle. So I did this by designing a ring that locates with the axle and extends the hub. So I can press it in, weld it in, and then I actually have to weld up the whole diameter that got damaged to make it work. And then turned it again to the same press fit diameter. If you notice, there's like a little step in there where the weld is. That's because of shrinkage, actually. So if I kept welding down, I'd just keep chasing that line down. So the actual diameter, it's such a small step. It looks bad on video, but it's not large. So anyway, I pressed in some new wheel bearings because I didn't want to reuse the old ones. And then pressed the hubs back in and put it all back together. And then here it is once again on the ground. Nothing to look at. I did test drive it. The pedal is actually the firmest it's been. So again, the nut was probably a little bit loose when we went testing, and then that just accentuated the bad design. So it is what it is. No matter what, if I got new hubs, I would still have to weld in an extension to them because they're just simply too short. Because if you remember, start out with 9.5 hubs, and I was going to use 9.5 outer CVs, and then I switched to 9.3 axles, which have a different shape to them on that radius where the hub fits on. So it is what it is. It was going to happen anyway. But anyway, I was able to do a few more changes I wanted to do. I got a brand new harness. So this expires 2027. My old one was way expired. And this is actually thin enough to fit on the Hans device now. So the other one was a little bit too wide, that's why it looked kind of awkward on videos. So that's set now, I'm happy about that. I want to do small stuff like add a shield over the dash because I noticed the sun actually messes with that whenever we're at the track. The other thing I actually got to make was my rear sway bar, finally. So it's actually not a sway bar, it's a sway tube. So that's 4130 steel. And that's the material I was actually waiting for a while, and then it didn't come in time for testing. So all I did was tubing came in, I made the end tabs for it. They're actually threaded, so the bolts go up into it, because the sway bar actually has to be on the top side of the axle because of the diffuser, which isn't fully bolted on right now. But the sway bar won't actually fit on the bottom side of the axle the way it is from factory, so I had to make one. Anyway, took the tubing, bent it up. It was hard to get right, but you know, a little bit of luck and a little bit of patience and being careful. Got it right, TIG welded it up, bolted it on, and then we have a sway bar now. And it's really mild, and the greatest thing about it is it's so close to the beam that I can actually hose clamp it to the beam to adjust it. So there's no clamps on it now, so it's the softest it'll be. And then if I hose clamp it on the ends, right where it's along the beam, it'll actually get stiffer. So I have an adjustable sway tube now, not a sway bar. Anyway, there's a few other small things I had to look at. There was a tiny leak from my crank sensor spacer. Let me pull the hood off. If you're wondering why my roof is so scratched up, it's because we just throw this hood on top of it all the time. Don't worry, we'll deal with that at some point. Anyway, everything was good here after testing. Had a small leak from my crank sensor, and when I say small, it was pretty bad because as the car sat and the engine filled up with oil again from the oil tank, it just covered the floor in oil. But anyway, resealed that. We're good. Now I know the crankcase is completely oil tight and airtight too. There's not much more to really do to this car before its next outing. I'd like to go testing again, but the first event that we're going to is actually at Cayuga again, the same track we tested at. So it's a long day and they got a lot of sessions, so I can just use that for more testing. And then if the car feels good, then I can just, you know, send it, do a proper hot lap, and then we'll see where it stacks up this year. I think I got to pull a little bit of fuel out of the map, but that's about it. There's nothing crazy to adjust. Anyway, the whole reason why we tested so early was because the plan was to go to Watkins Glen, Grid Life, and that's like a dream track of mine to drive, and this car would do really well there. But things didn't really fall in our favor. I messed up on the wheel bearing design, so I had to fix that, so wasn't going to make it then anyway. I missed the ticket sales, but I found someone selling a ticket, but I'm like, damn it, I need to fix this car. And I had some family stuff going on, so I just, you know, I was too busy to make it. And then it was a complete washout. There were 20-something, 21 cars wrecked or something like that because it rained the entire weekend, and no one's ever really driven that track before either. So I think the task failed successfully on that one. So it's okay. There's a lot more events to go this year.